Bethe Davis, List Making and the Dogs of Chaos. List Making and the Dogs of Chaos, Bethe Davis.
Raise your hand out there if you're a list maker. Wow, I'm amazed. I too am a list maker, and for me, this is probably the list that started it all. I don't know if you can see in the back. It starts at the top. It says, Dear Santa. This is the list that allowed me to see just how powerful list making can be. I went on from this type of list to create many, many more lists in my life. I have all the normal lists, grocery list, honeydew list, Christmas card list, but I have a lot more. I have a weekly chore list, a monthly goal chore list, and a special weekend chore list. I have a running 7-day dinner list that includes what we're having, who's cooking it, and what time it needs to be ready to accommodate my busy family schedule. I have a list of all the items in my freezer. This list is really important sometimes. As we all know, there are some things that are just unidentifiable. I have so many lists that I actually once started to make a list of all my lists. I took a really, really deep breath and stepped back down off the crazy train. When I think about how important lists have been in my life, I think about an incident that happened several years ago when my kids were still fairly young. A friend of my sister's, who is a psychologist and also a bit of a stuffed shirt, asked me this question, and I swear, this is exactly how he said it. In the wake of a turbulent childhood, to what single most thing do you attribute your success as a highly functional adult? And I, of course, looked right at him and immediately said, what are you talking about? And he said to me, you have 2 kids who are very busy. You work. You go to school. You seem to balance everything, and you seem to do it gracefully and without stress. And on top of that, your husband is frequently deployed for long periods of time. How do you manage? And I can't remember what the heck I said to him at the time, because all I could think about is highly functional right here. Up till then, I just thought I was really tired, but no, the whole time, highly functional. But later that night, I really gave it a lot of thought. I had a lot of friends who were in similar situations that got really stressed, especially when their husbands deployed. And I tried to think about what was different that I did from them. And I kept coming back again and again to the fact that I am a list maker. And I don't know if it's the process of developing a list and organizing and prioritizing, or if it's the physical list itself of having something tangible that you can refer to again and again. But it's powerful, and I don't really care which one it is. It works. And when I think about list making, and I think about how important it is and the huge impact it's had on my life, I'm drawn to an extremely vivid childhood memory. Now, when I was a kid, we moved a lot. And one of the places we lived in was one of those giant suburban subdivisions. And I think we all know the type. There's like 5 different houses and 6 different colors, like cookie cutter stamped into some unsuspecting hillside by the hundreds. Well, what this neighborhood had in common, besides a floor plan, was the fact that this developer loved privacy fence. And every backyard had privacy fence. And it was the kind of fence that had a board here, a board here, a board here, 2x4, top and bottom, kind of tying this whole thing together. Now, the developer, being a developer, also, of course, felt morally obligated to chop down like 80% of all the trees. The top board of that fence became the squirrel superhighway. And that's how the squirrels would navigate all over the neighborhood. Well, I was about 8 years old, and I was standing out on our back deck, kind of looking down into our backyard and watching this little squirrel navigate the squirrel superhighway. And he's going along. And my neighbor has 2 Rottweilers, and they are losing their tiny minds. They are just hurling themselves against the fence, and she's yelling at them to shut up, and they are just going nuts. And on the other side, on our backyard, is our 10-year-old hound dog. And she has found a patch of sunlight, and she's asleep, and she is not even twitching an ear. My cousin Lee comes out onto the deck with me, and he stands there looking for a minute. Now, I have to tell you, my cousin Lee had been sent to stay with us that summer because he was in a bit of trouble at home. Now, I was only 8, so I didn't really know it at the time, but that trouble involved a lot of pot smoking. And it all made sense later. Well, Lee stands there looking, and he says to me, "Dude, that's so beautiful." And I look at him, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Dude, you've got the dogs of chaos on one side, howling for blood. And you've got the hound of lethargic laziness on the other. But the squirrel stands in the middle." It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And when I think about list making, and I think about its impact on my life, that's my image. I am the squirrel. And I am up there on the squirrel superhighway. And the dogs of chaos may be on one side, and they may be loud and reckless, and they do whatever they want. And the hound of lethargic laziness is on the other, and maybe that dog just wants to lay in a patch of sun and put it off till tomorrow. But as long as I've got my list, I am up on the superhighway, and I